cricket world. Now the rules seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Caribbean Cricket Podcast live call-in show. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, and thank you as ever for joining me wherever you are joining from. As ever, get in the comments, let me know where you're joining from, let me know why you've tuned in. Last week Monday I said, you know what, let's start a call-in show. Let's actually, make the West Indian fans, the fans, the supporters, the followers, call it what you want, of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast and West Indies cricket. Let them have their say, So effectively, what this means is I've become a radio host. That's essentially what's happened here. I'm not even doing the show. You lot are doing the show. So you might as well call this. I don't even know if we're going to call this the live call-in show. We might have to just call this the Caribbean Cricket Podcast radio show. Someone give me a radio gig, man. Please, God, please let me leave teaching. Please. I've done teaching for 20 years, I've had enough of that. Come now, God. Come, God. Just bless me, innit? Anyways, people, listen, we've had a lot going on. Some of the talking points that you might want to touch on today. Jaden Seals, Jason Holder, Kemar Roach obviously have played their first game of the county championship. It's been pretty much rain. The 4 days of the first round of the county championship, most matches have been rained out. But Jaden took 6 wickets in his county championship debut, which bodes well for him. So there's definitely a talking point about if Jaden continues in good form for Sussex. As things stand right now, if people are going to name their bowling attack for England, there's no guarantee that Jaden Seals walks back into a West Indies bowling attack, given the rise of Shamar Joseph. But if Jaden continues to have a good time of it in England, then they're probably going to have to find a way to get Jaden in. And the only way I see Jaden getting in is if Jason doesn't get in. But I can't foresee any situation where they drop Jason Holder just to be able to get Jaden Seals in. But who knows? Who knows? Listen, whoever's in form, you get the place, right? So there's a Jaden Seals talking point. I'm hoping that most of you have seen or heard of the Cricket West Indies presser that took place today with Darren Sammy, Kishore Shallow, Miles Baskin, Noel Lynch. He's the director of cricket operation, the organising committee for Kensington Oval at the World Cup. Some of you may want to talk about the women's team that is obviously going to play Pakistan women. That's been selected. They're out there right now. I think they flew out a couple of days ago. The West Indies Championship returns. What day is it today? Monday. West Indies Championship returns on Wednesday. And yeah, there's a lot of talking points, a lot of things to talk about, But like I say, you lot will dictate where we go with today's show. What I will just quickly do, though, is just give you... Where is it? Let me just talk you through, because maybe not all of you have seen it yet. If you follow us on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, I've given a roundup there. But just some of the key talking points that came out of the Cricket West Indies press conference today. I'll just pick some of the biggest talking points. So Kishore said that 6 aspects of the Webby report have been adopted and agreed by the board of directors at Cricket West Indies. They will all come into effect from March next year. Obviously, several more haven't been. It's been reported in West Indian press or West Indian media that the board refused to, or there was no unanimous agreement on extending the term of the president not just Kishore, just any president from 2 terms to 3 terms. I believe that was rejected, but I'm sure more will come out about that in the future. Obviously, I still need to extend an invite to Kishore to come on the show and talk a bit more about the AGM and so on and so forth. Kishore also announced that there will be a CARICOM cricket symposium where all the regional leaders across the Caribbean will attend. It's going to be in Trinidad. Oh, Frank says I've got the wrong mic plugged in. Can people hear me? Yes or no? Let me pause. Let me pause there. Frank says I've got the wrong mic plugged in. Can you not hear me? Let me know quickly before I continue. Can you hear me? Yes or no? Is something? Oh, sorry, the mic's on the floor. Hold on. No wonder. Once I didn't even notice. Okay, you should be able to hear me better now. Sorry, I just realized the mic wasn't even attached to me. I was so up that I just dashed the mic on the floor. Anyway, anyways, back to what I was saying. There'll be a CARICOM cricket symposium with all the regional leaders in Trinidad, which is good. Cricket West Indies is a private entity, but cricket in the region is a public good. So it's important that Kishore has managed to, and obviously we'll see the outcome of that, but it's important that Kishore and the regional leaders have decided to come together to look at how they can work holistically to move West Indies cricket forward. Let's see if they all do turn up, though. Kishore said that they will all turn up in Trinidad, and the first thing that went through my head when Kishore said that was, will Bro God turn up, though? Will Andrew turn up from Jamaica? I don't know. Let's see, though. Let's see if they all do turn up. What other things were mentioned? The overhaul of the selection system. Spoke about load management and obviously the proliferation of T20 cricket around the world, which means that selection isn't just as simple as selecting the best players. It's about managing their loads as well. A new head of high performance has been appointed. I've forgotten the guy's name now, Sri Lankan guy who lives in New Zealand. I don't know if that means he's a Kiwi of Sri Lankan extract or if he's a Sri Lankan who lives in New Zealand. I don't know, but he has been appointed. Interesting that he got the job. I'd love to know what was the deciding factor that led to this guy getting the job. From what I know, I've done some digging. From what I know, there were definitely West Indian candidates, West Indian-born candidates who were in the shortlist for that job. And I'd love to. And don't get me wrong, okay? Don't get me wrong. And again, when you come on the show and you start calling in and doing your thing, right? Where do you stand on this? Is it best person for the job no matter where they come from? But if you have a West Indian that is applying for the job and has the exact same qualifications or more or better than an overseas guy, should you put a West Indian in the job? I'm just saying. Something worth. I'd love to know a bit more about that. Obviously, I'll do some more digging. I'll ask some more questions, but I would love to know what stood out about this guy as compared to anybody else who could have got the job. I'm all for meritocracy, but I'm all for meritocracy, but I'm not for meritocracy if there is a West Indian who's just as good as the overseas person. Maybe you lot disagree. Let me just throw that out there. Let me just throw that one out there. Maybe you want to call in and talk about that. Anyways, so what else do we want to say? What else was brought up in the press conference? We need to overhaul our scouting systems, better use of data, which is all correct. They want to introduce a girls under 16 program because they've identified the development, like when you get into the women's team, it's basically every island for themselves, then the under 19 women's team, and then the senior side. So they want to add in a girls under 16 program and then make that across the whole region. So the same way how we have like the Rising Stars competitions for the boys at under 15, under 17, then under 19, they want to start introducing something similar for the girls, which is, of course, the way it should have been all along. So they've recognized that needs to happen. Curators Workshop, they want to introduce a university program. So UE, unless I misunderstood this, UE are introducing some kind of professional qualification for pitch curation, and Cricket West Indies are also trying to introduce requisite qualifications as well for pitch curation, in line with their understanding that the quality of the pitches in the region are dog shit. So they're doing some work around that. Miles Baskin also said that the policy going forward is that every West Indies series, wherever that series is taking place, the best of the local coaches or local coaches within that particular territory will be invited to come and be part of the West Indian setup for that particular test engagement or ODI engagement or whatever it might be, as a way to upskill the coaches quicker. Allow me, Errol, allow me. I don't know what the qualification is going to be, but I don't know what it is. But boy, we all know that the curators all need to be upgraded for sure. They did. So the ICC were recently in the Caribbean. The relevant people from ICC had sorted out some kind of workshop ahead of the World Cup, because obviously they don't want the World Cup. They don't want the World Cup pitches to flop. So obviously they've done some work ahead of the World Cup with the curators in the region already. But it's about establishing a legacy going forward. West Indies can't rely on having a World Cup before we upskill people. We've got to have our own thing going on, irrespective of that. Then Darren Sammy spoke. So what was interesting about what Darren Sammy said? He said a lot of stuff, but I think the main things, like, you're going to see a lot of clickbait articles come off the back of what Darren Sammy said. So I'm here to tell you, this is what he actually said. Forget all the clickbait stuff. This is what he actually said. Sammy said, because I made sure I wrote down the specifics here. He says that he thinks that 13 of his 15-man squad for the World Cup, he says he thinks is already set. So you lot can start speculating about who you think those 13 are, but he says that he's already got 13 that he's convinced are going to the World Cup, barring injuries. In his exact words, he said that he thinks there are only 2 spaces left to fill. Part of that, obviously, they've announced that the West Indies A team is going to Nepal to play 5 T20s. And that's in collaboration with helping Nepalese cricket. Nepal obviously are in the World Cup as well. And what they've recognized is that one of our weaknesses is playing spin. So it helps to go to Nepal and get some work in around spin. Sammy said it's not an A team in the natural sense of the word. So any of you listening to this thinking, well, boy, they're going to pick some Ute man and we're going to see like players we've never seen before. As I understand it from what Sammy said, it's basically going to be all of the players that we expect to be in the World Cup. Sammy didn't say this, but read between the lines. All of the players we expect to be in the World Cup squad who aren't in the IPL. So what? So Akil Hussain, Brandon King, all of them, man. They're going to be in that. And so anyone who's not in IPL, Johnson, Charles, all of them, man, will go. And then they'll just fill the rest of the spaces with anybody who is probably on the radar for the World Cup and they need to have a look at. So you can expect that Obed McCoy, for example, you would expect him to be given a go. You would expect them to take one of or both Hayden Walsh Jr. and Yannick Carrier, because they obviously need to have a look at a leg spinner. So you wait to see who goes on that tour, but don't think of it as a Ute man squad. It's very much a squad selected with the World Cup in mind and filling in any gaps that they can find. I see you lot talking about J. Cole. I'll get to that in a minute. What else did he say? The Barbados man spoke about Kensington Oval and how brilliant Barbados is. It's pretty much what he did. Yeah, and then Sammy spoke about the fact that the biggest weakness in the team in the World Cup team at the moment. Again, these weren't his exact words, but read in between the lines of what he was saying. He says, our bowling in the power play. That's the thing he's most concerned about. He basically said that our wicket taking and ability to show control in the power play and probably death bowling as well, is the biggest thing to work on. He's not concerned about middle overs, and he kind of praised people like Gudakesh Motie who are able to come back in the middle overs and show control. But he said the better you are in the power play in terms of control with the ball, so referencing people like when Badri used to give us control, when Sunil Narayan used to give us control in the power play, right? He says we're struggling there. But then he also said everyone's struggling with that, because we're in an era now of T20 cricket where men are just making 250 runs on a normal one. So it's not like it's specific to just the West Indies, but he recognizes that that is the weakness of the side. So when we're going to Nepal, it's looking at things like that. Who can show control? So I think they'll be looking at that. Obviously, lots of questions were asked about Shamar Joseph. I've already seen some kind of clickbait stuff about Shamar Joseph. What he said was Shamar is in contention. He didn't even try and hide it. He said Shamar is in contention because, of course, he's got to be in contention because look what he did in Australia. But he made it clear to say that just because he did what he did in Australia doesn't mean that that naturally correlates to or translates to T20 cricket. He said in an ideal world, he wants to see Shamar Joseph get some game time in the IPL because nobody really knows how good he's going to be if he doesn't get any game time. The question that should have been asked, which I don't think anyone really asked, and I didn't ask it because my laptop was dying, is if Shamar doesn't play in the IPL, then what? Now, I would assume the question is, will they pick him anyway? I think they will, because they'll still be searching for an X-Factor bowler. But obviously, there'll be a lot of headlines and clickbait coming out about that in the next few days. What else? Oh, yeah. So Miles, sorry, people, there's loads here. Sorry, I didn't even realize. I haven't even got to the calling part yet, but I want you lot to know the facts. Miles Baskin confirmed, which we already knew. We've already kind of spoken about it on CCP, which is that they... Actually, do you know what? I'm going to big up CCP for a minute. Let me big up ourselves for a minute. For those of you who have been watching Caribbean Cricket Podcast for the longest while, do you not remember in last year's, in fact, the archives are there. After this episode, after this live call-in show, go back and, in fact, even now, as you're watching this show, bring up our YouTube page and go back about, when was CPL? CPL was what, August? So go back about 9 months, 8 months, whatever it is. And you will see that I was doing shows before the start of CPL 2023, cussing about CPL and saying this tournament ain't helping us. It ain't helping us develop nobody. It's just GOAT man, GOAT generation still playing it, still playing in it. No new youth man are coming up in the tournament. Anyways, I'm gonna beat my chest. I reckon we started the conversation. I reckon CCP started the conversation of cussing out CPL, because I don't remember anybody else doing it. Because I remember when I did a show where I basically said this tournament is a waste of time in West Indies cricket in terms of bringing forth the next youth man. Right? I don't remember anyone else saying anything about it at the time. Go back and watch the video. Go back. Anyways, the point is, we fast forward now. Miles Baskin was talking about, literally said, CPL ain't helping us. He said it facts. He went, CPL ain't helping us. And when Miles said it, I was like, bruh, I said it first. Anyways, but the point is that Miles said CPL ain't helping us, and that he said that CPL have recognized themselves that it ain't helping them either, because once the GOAT generation move on, Pollard and so on and so forth, who's your next set of players coming through, right? So anyways, he said that the regional tournament, the regional T20 tournament is due to start next year. He says they're just finalizing the rules around the tournament. So he says it will 100% only be West Indian players. And he says that they're still trying to decide if it should have an age limitation on the tournament, so that effectively it's a youth man tournament. Who knows if that's how it's going to go? I would have an age limitation on it. I would personally have an age limitation on it. I would say, remember, 28 is youth man in West Indian cricket. So I would say 28 and lower. In fact, 30 is youth man. Basically, I would say to the GOATs, you're not allowed to play. I would tell Pollard and them, man, you aren't allowed to play. And any man who's like 35, 34, you man aren't allowed to play. So maybe 30 and under, because 30 is youth man in the West Indies, right? So yeah, so they're gonna have that tournament next year. What else? Yeah, that was pretty much it. That was pretty much it, to be fair. Those are the key talking points that came out of the press conference. So yeah, if you see any clickbait headlines that come up over the next few days, that was me just kind of letting you know what was actually said in the press conference. Right, before I'm going to put the link. Let me put the link in the thing. 1 second. I'm going to put the link in the chat. So anybody who wants to come on and call, your chance is coming up now. Oh, actually, no, I'm not going to go. Let me just address this. I don't know how to say your name, my guy. Might be a girl as well. Thank you for the super chat. I literally give me some phonics or something. How do I say that name phonetically? But thank you. Ultimately, thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. Nothing to do with West Indies, but let's address it. Nathan Fritz says J. Cole is going to be... No. Where's the original comment? It wasn't Nathan. Here we go. T. Brown says J. Cole mashed up my Monday vibes. Yeah, so I saw a lot of timeline discourse. People in the live right now going, why is Smash talking about J. Cole? It's supposed to be a West Indies calling show. Yeah, listen, I actually respect J. Cole for it, you know. You know when, never be afraid to say that, you know what, let me hold an L. I respect him. I respect someone who's willing to publicly say, you know what, it's an L. It's an L for me. I think too many people are caught in the whole rap thing, that the way you show your masculinity in rap is by beefing and who can go bar for bar. But sometimes you just have to take the L. Let's normalize taking the L, you know? So big up J. Cole. Anyways, Kevin, thanks, Kev. So Kev, this is the guy who's the head of not Kev, sorry. Super Singh is the new guy who is going to be the head of what's the role again? Head of development in West Indies Academy. I can't remember the pathway development. I can't remember the name of the actual title now. Former first-class cricketer, head of New Zealand pathway development, Otago head pathway coach, talent development manager, global coach level 3. Okay. I'm being careful about what I can say here. If my understanding is correct, a level 4 coach also applied for the job. That's all I'm going to say. Let's leave it like that for now. Right, okay. Jacob was the guy who did the super chat. Cheers, Jacob. Much appreciated. Right, okay. Before I go to the call-in, I'll put the link in, so people who want to call in, the link's now in the chat. You can go backstage, etc. But in fairness, I sent a message to patrons the other day, and I said, you know what? There's people who are patrons of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast who effectively have kept us on the road, kept the show going. Some from day one. Some more recently, and I said, you know what, got to give the patrons something more than just saying thank you for being a patron and 25% off merch and so on and so forth. And one thing that I said that I could do straight away is that when we do a live call-in show, they get first dibs on any questions. So I'm going to go to the patrons first. So anybody who wants to call in, the link is there. But let me get the patron questions at first. So the first one from Mitchell Hall. Mitchell Hall says, with West Indies cricket, what gives you optimism about the future? Thank you for the question, Mitchell. I think Kishore. So it's coming up to a year since Kishore Shallow became the new president. Oh no, it is a year since Kishore Shallow became president of Cricket West Indies, and I think only the most churlish and most bitter of people in West Indies cricket would turn round and say he hasn't shown that he means business. I think there is enough evidence over the last year of business decisions he's made, strategic decisions that have been made, the increasing professionalization of the organization and of West Indies cricket. West Indies are still going to be West Indies, but I think you can say that Kishore is standing on business and that he has a clear vision and he's put a team around him with a clear vision to try and improve certainly things off the field in West Indies cricket. A president, like some people forever judge a president by results on the field, but come on, this is West Indies. Like we've been in decline for 20 something years on the field. So you can't just judge a president by results on the field. What you can judge him on is what changes does he make off the field. And I think there's been evidence from Kishore's reign thus far that he's standing on business and he means business. So that gives me optimism. I've actually got optimism as well about Andre Coley as red ball coach and Darren Sammy as white ball coach. I think touch wood, we have the right men for the jobs at this moment in time. And I think there is a clear vision there. The academy, that gives me some optimism for the future. The academy setup. So there's bits and pieces. There's some things going on. Next questions. Like I say, Kevin, I see you in the background. I know you want to come call in. Sorry, but I'm just going to go for the Patron questions first. Mitchell Hall says, "What are your top 3 cricket books?" Actually, one's still on my desk. So if you lot haven't, can you see that? The reflection from the light. See if you can see there. So this is the inside part. If you lot haven't read The Unforgiven by Ashley Gray about the Rebel Tour, the West Indian Rebel Tour of apartheid South Africa, if you haven't read that book, it's an absolute must. It's an absolute must to read that book. So 100% that book. Henry Olonga's book on, I think it's called Blood, Sweat and Tears. I think that's what it's called. So Henry Olonga's book on the stand that he made against Robert Mugabe and the regime in Zimbabwe, which basically finished his career. That's a fascinating book as well. I'd highly recommend that one. Also on my bookcase, my bookcase is in the other room. So I've got a book, Michael Holding, not the Black Lives, not like the not the one that came out around Black Lives Matter, but I think it's his autobiography. I think it's called No Holding Back. If anyone knows, I may have that name wrong, but that's a really interesting book as well. You know, Michael Holding's autobiography. So I've finished reading all those books. So if anybody, like particularly The Unforgiven, if anybody wants any of those books, just get in touch with me, man. I'll ship it to you. Highly recommend all of those books because I've finished reading them still. So yeah, there's 3 books. Next question. Sheikh says, is there anything that can be done to save Jamaican cricket? I was about to say something so reckless, but true say my people live in Jamaica and I want to go home. The government's got to change. There, I said it. JLP needs to come out of power. Simple as that. Bro God and Olivia Babsy, come out of power, innit? You're not serious. Come out of power. Government needs to change. Boy, can't get back into Jamaica still after that one. Listen, I just renewed my Jamaican passport the other day. Bro God's gonna stop me. Bro God's gonna stop me getting back into my country. Yeah, so there's the answer. There's the answer to that one. Let me ring my dad after this, check that he's safe. So yeah, so there's a question for that one. Given the significant challenges, shakes again. Given the significant challenges ahead, do you think there is any hope of West Indies women winning another World Cup in our lifetime? Yes, actually, no, there is. No, wait, a World Cup? No, what am I talking about? No, there isn't. No, sorry, I didn't realize you meant World Cup. Never say never, but the question you've got, Hayley Matthews needs at least. So Hayley's only 25, right? I think Hayley's only 25 still. Hayley's got a long time left. She needs at least 2 generational talents to come from somewhere to help her. Maybe if Deandra comes back, because Deandra's only 31, 32. We need some of these new under-19 girls that have like transitioned into the senior women's side. We need one of them to like become a generational talent. I don't see it yet, but we need one. There's a couple youngsters still. I know the Guyanese must be upset, because Munisar didn't even get called up for the tour to Pakistan, which was interesting. Is it what's her name? Chanel Saw, the Trini girl. I think she's quite good. I can't remember if she's got into the senior side or not. Zaida James may come good over time. There's a couple people still, but we have to see. Kevin, I am coming to you. There's 2 more questions. I'll just get through them. Shakes, last question from Shakes. So these are all patrons, by the way, people. So if you lot are saying, no, why is he doing all these questions? I have to reward the patrons, man. They support the podcast. Shake says, settle the debate. Curry chicken or chicken curry? Can I tell you lot something? About to say blasphemy here. Trini's and Guyanese right now waiting for the answer. What's the difference? What's the difference really, though? What's the difference? My Trini and my Guyanese people, what's the actual difference? In terms of flavor, what's the difference between curry chicken and chicken curry? Tell me the difference, please, in terms of actual flavor. So I'm giving no answer to that one just yet. Right. You see the Trinis and Guyanese, they kind of remind me of like the English and the Australians. Whenever the English and the Australians are like shouting at each other, I'm always like, yeah, but you two are like brothers, innit? So, like, yeah, you're brothers. Why are you trying to beat up on each other? That's right. So yeah, last one, and then I'm coming to Kevin, who's going to call in first. So Errol says, what's the latest on World Cup preparations? I think I just covered that at the start, actually, given the feedback from Sammy. Female additions to the board. Yeah, their roles and responsibilities. Yeah. So if you haven't heard, that's something I missed out, actually. I should have said that. So Kishore mentioned right at the very beginning, my fault for not mentioning it at the start. I'll actually just quickly read you the press release. So Cricket West Indies proudly announces the appointment of 3 women to the Cricket West Indies board as independent directors, which marks a historic milestone for gender diversity and inclusion within the organisation. Miss Diane Campbell, Mrs. Louise Victor Frederick are new, and Miss Deborah Koyat Patton returns to the board. So Diane is a Jamaican cricket administrator with 3 decades of experience. Mrs. Louise Victor Frederick is a seasoned branding and communication strategist from St. Lucia. She also serves as director of the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture. And Miss Deborah Koyat Patton is an attorney at law from Trinidad and Tobago, and she specializes in employment law, intellectual property law, diplomatic protocol. So she will bring invaluable legal expertise to Cricket West Indies board. Listen, any appointments that get rid of the old dinosaurs in West Indies cricket, I'm in favor of it. So if it could be 17 women, I don't care. If it gets rid of the dinosaurs that have been there since Jesus came back out of the tomb, I don't care who it is. Get rid of all of them. All of them men who have had jobs for 50 something years. Come out of this. So big up the women, big up their role, and big up Kishore and the board for certainly making the board more diverse. That should just be a norm in 2024. And look what it's taken. Look how long it's taken for Cricket West Indies to get to grips with all that. Anyways, thank you to the patrons for those questions. You will always get first dibs going forward on the call-in show. People, by the way, the call-in show is now every Monday at 10 or 10:30 UK time. So yeah, I'm going to try to stick to that. Anyways, let's get to the call-in show, the actual segment now, the call-in show segment. Enough chat from me. Kevin P is up first. Let's bring him on the show. Let's see what he's got to say. Yes, Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes, Mash. How are you, man?
I am good. I am good. Welcome to the call-in show. Where you calling from?
Georgetown, Guyana.
So, well, yeah, no, actually, just go into. I was about to ask you about chicken curry chicken, but just go just go into what you want to say, anyways.
It's the same thing, man. We just people trying to be different.
I hear you. So, yeah, what's your topic of discussion?
I got a couple of points. First thing, this guy Jeremiah Louis. He's got 29 wickets, 5 games in the first class tournament so far. Very consistent. So I'm not sure if he's played any 18 cricketers yet, but I think he deserves a shot if he hasn't to get into the 18. Looking at the Pacers, he's been the most consistent. He's 1 wicket behind Jamal Warrican, who is the leading wicket taker this year. And you know, we have several other Pacers that have done well so this year also, which is very good. But yeah, Jeremiah Louis, I think he deserves to get into the 18 for, I think, the South Africa 18 tour.
Yeah.
Coming up next.
Let me ask you a question on that, because I agree with you that he's always been up there, right? He's consistently takes wickets at the regional level. Does he just have to accept that he can't break through until someone gets injured? So, like, for example, he's not going to replace Shamar Joseph. He's not ahead of Jaden Seals because of what Jaden Seals has already proved in international cricket. He's not ahead of Kimar Roach yet. And he won't be he's not ahead of Alzari Joseph. How do you get him into a test side? How do you reward him at any point for a test call-up? Or does he just have to bide his time?
2 things. So, one, he has to bide his time and continue to work on his game. Secondly, I think even if we can't get him into the 11, it's worth maybe taking him on tour where he's around the group, where he can continue to work with the guys that are there. I mean, Kima Roach has been there forever, and I think he has a lot to give back to these younger guys, same as Jason Holder. So yeah, get him into the squad, let him tour. You know, if we can place the warm-up games, he bowls with the guys, you know, he's there. And you can keep an eye on him. And, you know, I mean, West Indies cricket is a funny thing. Apart from injuries that, you know, can happen in the game of cricket, unexplicable things happen in our cricket. So you never know.
And that's the thing, exactly. As soon as I said the point to you, I was like, boy, all it takes is one thing, and all of a sudden he's in the team anyway. So yeah, anything can happen. I like that you say just continue working the game. But the A team, 100%. In the meantime, he should get an 18 call up. I agree with that. Yeah, what's your second point? Moving on.
Kurt McKenzie, what is wrong with him? I mean, he did well in Australia, you know. I agree with your point that I don't think he should have gone into the test team there, but he did well. He was our best batsman. But he's come back home and man has struggled. His top score is 40 so far in 5 games. You know, he's looked out of sorts. Like he just looked lost.
If there's anybody in the chat who is a Jamaican cricket connoisseur, by all means put your points in the chat as well. But the weird thing about Kurt McKenzie, Kevin, is that last season's Red Ball Championship, Jamaica dropped him, right? He didn't even play all of the matches for Jamaica. That's how frustrated Jamaica were with him, right? He goes to the academy. He scores in the Headley Week series for the academy, and then he just gets into the West Indies team off the back of that. I think he scored the double ton. Gets into the West Indies team off the back of that. It is, and then he comes. So now then he goes to Australia, completely overperforms anybody's expectations. Then comes back to regional cricket. Now he's established. Now he's a West Indies international. I forgot. Actually, he got called up to the India series before that. But anyways, now he's in an established West Indian international. I have a huge issue with players who come back to our domestic scene and can't destroy or show why they're a senior international. I have a big issue with players who come back and just revert back to their norm. And to me, what Kirk did in Australia is he made his own luck. And what I mean by that is he didn't play with fear, and he said, I'm just going to play my natural game. I'm going to score whilst I can. And there's probably a ball there for me, but I'm going to score. Now, some people respect that style of cricket because at least it's attacking, at least it's trying to put pressure back on the opposition. Is that a style of cricket that has any longevity at the top level? I think we're about to find out in England, because now, like, England have now got footage of Kirk McKenzie. Similar to Tage. You know, when Tage debuted in Australia last year, Australia didn't know who Tage was. They had no footage on Tage. Tage comes back a year later to Australia. All of a sudden now he looks like his feet are stuck in the mud. If you see what I mean. So I think I am worried that Kirk has not been able to show any level of international class back at the domestic level. And I am worried about him when he gets to England, because he deserves his place. But he does. I'm worried. But he has to play. But I don't know what to say about that, Kevin. He has to play.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing for me is that even if he hasn't made a lot of runs, he just hasn't looked fluent. I mean, it's a difference between the way you come out and the fluency in which you play. Even if you don't get a lot of runs, but he hasn't looked at all fluent. It's like how Tage was looking early on. I mean, even with that 100, he still didn't look, very fluent, but he looked better than previous innings. So I don't know. It's a mindset thing, but hopefully he has 2 more rounds and he can hopefully get some runs.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect we'll be returning to this after the England series. And
hopefully we're talking about how well he's done.
Exactly. But the problem for Kirk, and probably Alec is in the same boat as him as well, is that if they struggle in England, I think we said this on last week's call-in show, if somebody's pressuring you for your spot, how many series do you get where you just keep your spot because you did something a couple series? So Tage is in that boat right now. Tage did something about 3 series ago. How long do you keep your spot before you have to give way to someone who's in better form than you? And I don't know how that works for us.
That's where this thing about we're investing in youth, that statement becomes very problematic.
Exactly, and that's the point I'm getting at. Once you say we're investing in youth, how much do you double down on that statement, even if it's obvious that, the youth are struggling?
Because one of the things I noticed with these guys that in our first class system here, the bowling, these guys, our bowlers are not consistent. So they're not going to hit the good lengths consistently. But when you go to Australia, you go to England, they have better bowlers. They're not going to get the balls put away. They're going to have to find ways to nudge and nurgle and get off strike, which is a struggle. And kind of saw that with Alec in Australia, where he wasn't getting the bad balls to put away, and he didn't get the runs.
Listen, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting either way. But as you said, 2 more rounds. Anything can happen in these last 2 rounds. Let's just hope they back themselves into some kind of form.
Yep.
For real. Listen, Kevin, I've got some people backed up wanting to come in, so I'm gonna thank you for calling in.
One last thing before we go.
Go on.
Nice to see that Seals has gotten, he's looked good in this first game in England. England, hopefully he stays injury free and see him back in the test team.
So let's actually just address that point before you do go. If Seals continues taking wickets in England, who doesn't play? Because he has to play.
This is where succession planning comes in. I mean, Keymire's coming to the end of his career. I mean, I'm not going to say drop him, but maybe he doesn't play all the games. I mean, is it a 3-test series or is it
it's a 3-match test series? Yeah.
Well, maybe Keymire sits out one, and or if there's an injury, then he comes in for sure. But hopefully there are no injuries. But yeah, maybe we rest one of the guys for one game, and we have guys in form that are bowling well. It's worth giving them a game.
Yeah, no, you know what? I hear that. I think people. I don't know if people remember the last time the team was in England was the bubble tour, the pandemic tour, and something that people may not remember is that one of the reasons why we lost that series, beyond the fact it was in very special circumstances in a bubble, no fans, is that by the third test we didn't rotate anyone. It was Gabriel, Roach, Holder, and probably Alzari, match after match after match. And I think there's an argument to say that if you have someone on the sidelines who is just as good, who's fresh, we need to do what other teams do, which is rotate people in and out.
And that's what the Australians have done successfully.
100%. So I agree with you on that point, actually, that we shouldn't get wedded to this idea of this is our bowling attack and you don't make any changes unless somebody's injured. Like, if you need to rest someone, you rest someone and rotate in and keep the attack fresh.
We've been bowling Alzari into the ground, so maybe he doesn't play all through too. We can't kill the man. But anyway, that's just me.
Okay. Listen, Kevin, thank you for calling in, man. Much appreciated.
Yep. Thank you. Hopefully you get that selector spot. We can feel.
We'll see. Take care either way.
Everybody, bye.
Later. Right. Who's next? Let me just if somebody did want to call in but didn't know what the link was, it's there. People's Champ. You ready? I can't see his face. Maybe he might not want us to know his government face, but he's ready. He's ready all the same. You don't. By the way, people, if you call in, you don't need to show your face. If you don't want the government to track you, don't put your camera on. So, anyways, People's Champ. What is this? The Rock? The Rock, fresh off WrestleMania, wants to come talk to me. Okay. Let's see if he hits me with a rock bottom. Yes, People's Champ. How you doing?
If you can smell what the Rock is cooking. Hey, man, what's up, man?
I'm good.
Okay, I'm going to add to what my previous guy, Kevin, said.
Mm-hmm.
I think we also need one more first-class tournament because we don't have enough red ball games. And I think we need to get some of our players, like you have Atenes, you have Carty, you got Solozano. Try to get them in England or in Australia where they have a better first-class setup. So now that the unbreak and so on, or when the first-class season is finished, if you're not doing anything, instead of being home not doing anything, you can go to one of those places and continue to better your game.
So this is interesting, and I agree with you. I agree with you, but I'm going to just take it. I'm going to look at it a slightly different way in so much as how much of us getting our players abroad is down to Cricket West Indies and how much of it is down to the agent of the specific player, right? Now, I think I would be surprised if Cricket West Indies has any sway in a senior professional's career. That's the agent is going to have the sway in that. Now, let's look at an example. So the Jermaine Blackwood has just signed a deal with the team's called Haysted. I think that's what they call some team in Oldham, in the Manchester, Lancashire League or whatever it might be, right? So Jermaine Blackwood signed a deal with them to play club cricket. He's their professional, their club pro for the season. That is a very, very clever move by Jermaine Blackwood. Now, Jermaine has had a horrible, horrible first-class season this year. But if a West Indian batter now gets injured during the England tour, they're going to go to Blackwood as the guy to be called up into the squad because he'll already be playing in England. So I just wonder if Blackwood could ink that deal, and it was announced, I think, about 2 weeks ago. The first thing that went through my head was, if Blackwood can ink that deal, how come some other players can't ink deals to come play some club cricket who aren't going to be in any T20 leagues or anything like that? So I agree with your point in principle, but I don't think it's a Cricket West Indies thing. I think it's an agent, and it's got to be up to the player and the agent to try and find a club that's willing to take them on as a pro. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yes, sir. But I think West Indies could also influence them into that direction in terms of the agent or the cricketer themselves.
Yeah, 100%. I know from speaking to Alex agency that they were close to getting Alec a county deal, which I'm actually surprised at, because I'm surprised that a county would be willing to take a punt on Alec, just because, not because Alec's not good enough, but just because he's so new or fresh in his kind of international career. But it's good to see that his agency are being proactive about that. So I guess it's about having those conversations, you know?
Yeah. Now, onto the test squad going towards England series. Let's say Atenes and Kirk McKenzie does not do anything in the next 2 rounds. Do you foresee them bringing in somebody like Brandon King and probably, say, Kimani Melias or Jeremy Salazano into the squad, or is it going to be a give and take?
So the squad that goes to England has to be a 15-man squad, you would assume, for a traveling tour. There's only one tour game, which is the one against the English select side in Beckenham, Southeast London, prior to the first test at Lord's. You would assume they only take a 15-man squad to England. Now, assuming that already the 11 that played, or the 13, 12, whatever you want to call it, that played that final test in Australia at the Gabba, you have to assume that all of them are getting rewarded. So there's not many places left after that. Jason Holder takes one spot, that's 13. Jaden Seals takes another spot, that's 14. You've only probably got a spot left after that for one batter. Do you see? Even if there's a couple of changes here and there. So I hear you. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see Brandon King selected in a touring squad to England. But the question I've got is, who doesn't go then? Is there even a spot for Brandon King once you count the 15 names? And there's even an argument to say, is King the first name you call, given that there are other batters who have performed better than him so far in the first class season? So I hear you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying no to that. I would love King to go, but I just don't know if there's a spot for him yet. As for Kamani Melius, no way.
Okay. I think Brandon King screwed himself by not going to Australia. However, I think we can find a spot for him because we have our number 3 and number 4 currently struggling in our first class tournament. However, I for one foresee a scenario where one of those 2 misses out, we keep Justin Graves and could bring in Brandon King and still have Jason Hall in the setup.
Okay. Okay. Somebody who's got a pen and paper, just quickly write this down. I ain't got time to write it down. This is the 15-man squad to England right now. Brathwaite, Chanderpaul, McCaskey, or someone else who's an opener. That's your backup opener, right? McKenzie, Athanaze, Hodge, Graves, Holder, De Silva, Sinclair. That's already 10 players. Roach, 11. Both Josephs, 12, 13. Jaden Seals, 14. Gudakesh Moti, 15. That's already 15 players. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's without me even thinking about it properly. That's just me doing it straight off the top of my head. That's already 15 players. So when I say those 15, to get King or anyone else in, who do you drop?
Well, I think it would solely depend on the last 2 rounds, where we could see either Justin Graves or Kirk McKenzie or Alec Atenes. If they don't perform well, one of those would have to sit out for Brendan King if he does good in the next 2 rounds.
You genuinely believe that they wouldn't take McKenzie and Athenaeus to England?
At this point, where they're both struggling in our regional tournament, I think one of them will have to sit out.
Okay, listen, I'm going to say, listen, I hear you. You know what? I hear it, but I'm telling you they're going. Because if they've already invested in them. They've already publicly made it clear that they're investing in these youth guys. So I just don't buy that after 2 series against one versus India and one versus Australia, that they say, well, you're no good. You're not going to England. I think they take them to England I'm not saying they should. I'm saying they will.
I have a question for you. Is there going to be a reserve, like an extra 3 players going, or no?
I don't think so. So I asked Johnny Grave about this a couple of months back, and he said it was only during COVID, because of COVID protocols, that teams were sending extended squads to tours. And Johnny made the point that, listen, after COVID, we're going back to the original setup, which is that you take a 15-man squad on an away tour, and that's just how it is. And if you need to get someone in addition to that, you fly someone over if there happens to be an injury and so on and so forth. So I don't see us taking a squad bigger than 15, because it's not like we're taking an A team to tour England at the same time or anything like that. So I think it's just a 15-man squad to tour England.
Okay. My last question now, gearing towards the T20 World Cup. Do you foresee Fabian Allen getting into that A team to Nepal?
He should. 100% he should. But where is Fabian Allen? I don't know. I don't know what's going on for Fabian. The Fabian Allen drop-off has been one of my most heartbreaking things in West Indies cricket. I know there was a family bereavement and Fabian's gone through a lot. But if we go back to like 2020, 2021-ish, everyone forgets that Fabian Allen at his best
was the best batsman in the team.
He's a triple threat player, complete triple threat. He's a finisher. He's an effective left arm slow bowler. He's probably the best fielder in the region. Him and Hayden Walsh can argue about it. But yeah, I would take Fabian just because he offers a skill set that very few players in the region have. But I don't know where Fabian is. I don't know what's going on for Fabian. But based on the fact that the only other triple threat players in the region are Akil Hussain, that's it. So yeah, I'd take him if he's available, but I don't know what's going on for Fabian.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good night.
No worries. Well done at WrestleMania, yeah?
Thank you, but my cousin lost, man.
Come again next year. It's all good. Thank you anyways. Let's move on. Right, so just so people know who's in the background. So we've got Frank, who's up next, Tom, and then Vanetta. Vanetta, yeah, I think you messaged something under one of the videos recently, or was it on Insta? I don't know, but I recognize the name Vanetta. So yeah, let's unless somebody wants to jump on, Vanetta will be the last person when I get to Vanetta to call in for today. Thank you to everyone who's called in thus far. Thank you for all the messages. Sorry if I haven't put a lot of messages up on the screen. Once the call-ins happen, I'm trying to do both things at the same time, you know. But by all means, keep the conversation going in the chat. Actually, there was a message in here that I wanted to. There was one message I wanted to bring up. Here we go. Shiloh Blunt says Roach should not go to England. Come on, man. Come on. What? Are we writing off Kimar? What? Kimar Roach, you know? Now we need to respect our guys, you know. We need to respect our guys. Do you know what we're really good at as West Indians? We write off our players real quick, you know. Real quick. Come on now. Listen, if Surrey Cricket Club, who are the best red ball team in this country, think Kimar Roach is good enough for them, I think he's good enough. I think he's good enough for us, you know. So, come on, let's have a bit of respect on Kimar's name, right? Anyways, Frank, you're up next. You're next on the show.
Frank, what's crack, Mash? I'm good.
Sorry?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
What's
I'm good.
crack,
I'm good.
man?
Sorry, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Do you need a translation or?
No. Sorry, I'm still reeling from the Kimar Roach thing. Sorry. Anyways,
Bro,
I'm good. I'm good.
Why is this the case? Like, we just won in Australia, and we're not going to take Kimar Roach to England when he lives most of his life now in England and takes wickets for fun there. Like, yeah, I don't know, man.
I should just say as well before you make your point that people may remember. Let me just bring up my my stats. People may remember that before the Australia tour, there was a lot of people saying Kimar Roach shouldn't go to Australia, right? Mm. And to be fair to those people, there was at least some statistical evidence to understand why people were saying that. But I just want to remind some people of what happened in Australia. Bear with me, because I just need people to know. So in Australia, people, Kimar Roach left Australia with he took 5 wickets in the 2-match test series at 26 apiece. Okay. So, and that was Kimar Roach, who you lot said shouldn't go to Australia. So if he shouldn't go to Australia, where historically he's not played that well, you're now saying he shouldn't go to England, where historically he has played well. Like, I don't understand people. I don't understand. Anyway,
and like there is a real issue with, I think, West Indian fans where we just want something new all the time. I think most cricket, this happens to all cricket fans, even like, you know, if you listen to like the Great Cricketer or anything like that, there, like their fan, like you hear Australians wanting new players in whenever they literally win every single game, apart from the West Indies, that they play in. So yeah, I don't know, but I have 2 questions. Really,
go for it.
The first one is that I'm mainly a red ball guy. I like T20 cricket. I watch IPL and stuff, but I'm mainly a red ball guy at heart. So just the first thing around CCC actually, and their inclusion in the 4-day champ. I'm in the Discord, and I know there's a lot of chat about CCC and their relative like weakness in the 4-day championships, which they are. They're very weak right now. But I suppose my question to you is, with CCC and West Indies Academy, should we be looking at their wins or losses as like, you know, are they successful or are they good for the championship? Or should it be, are these scouting teams? Are these teams that these are meant to catch the players that the regional boards don't select? You know, and is them catching those players and then those players going back into the regional side actually then what counts as success for both of those teams?
Good question. Okay, so CCC this year, I'm going to call one name from CCC. And so I'm actually going to... I've been critical of CCC just because I didn't understand it as a concept. And I will state again, and I make no apologies about it, that I think the team is too heavily weighted to players from Barbados. That's not a criticism of Barbados per se, and I know why that is the case in terms of university campus and so on and so forth. But if it wasn't for CCC this year, we wouldn't have seen Jediah Blades, for example, right? Now, Jediah Blades has had a very good tournament thus far. He's a left-arm seamer. We don't have too many of them in the region. So I can't be, on one hand, saying, oh, but I don't understand the concept of CCC. And then look at someone like Jediah Blades. Romario Graves has had a good tournament as well for CCC.
The leg spinner Murata, or what's it?
Yes,
I've never heard his name pronounced.
Zishan Matara as well. If we didn't have CCC, we don't see these players. So we've got to be honest and say CCC plays a function in highlighting the next set of youth guys who possibly aren't in the West Indies Academy setup, nowhere near their franchise side, and obviously these guys are all studying some kind of course and so on and so forth. My overriding issue with CCC though is I just think that. So who was the senior player for the last round? Was it Yannick Otley? I think Yannick Otley was the senior player for the last round. Before then, Jonathan Carter, Shamar Brooks,
the Jonathan
else.
Drakes.
No, he's in the Barbados side. But
I'm
Primus.
I just feel that I just feel with a couple more senior guys, you just raise their level that bit more to make them a touch more competitive. And I just think there's been a few too many games and passages of play where I'm like, yeah, they're too weak for this. They're too weak for the overall tournament. It's not like the academy. The academy are competitive in every game they pretty much play. So when the academy take their L's, we're still seeing them pose a threat to whoever they're playing when they take the L. So I'm not saying get rid of CCC because I'd rather them be there and everybody play 7 games than they not be there. Because if you take CCC out, that's one less game in the tournament and so on and so forth. But I just think they need to just get back to the drawing board at the end of the tournament and just work out. So what's the overall function we're going with here? So yeah.
I suppose here's and then
so I agree with a lot of those points. I suppose, and going back to how you said as well about, it gives the opportunity to see someone like Jediah Blaze, like Matara and Romero Greaves. Like, remember that CCC obviously were in Super 50, and that squad was very good. And if we're looking at them as like some sort of pathway to their like regional or franchise sides, so in October they had Mansingh playing, who's now at Jamaica. Yep. They had Kadima Lane, who's now at West Indies Academy. They had Kemar Holder, who's now in Barbados. They have Jordan Johnson, West Indies Academy. They have Isaiah Thorne, who's now in Guyana. So, like, are they also a bit of a victim of their own success? Because, like, if they had that same squad in this sort of rounds, then they would certainly be a lot more competitive. I do agree with you, though. I have no idea. I have no notion why they don't have their 4 franchise players. Like that makes no sense. But
Go on. Sorry. That point you made about them in Super 50, completely valid, and that's them serving their purpose in terms of putting certain players on the platform. And you missed out Johan Jeremiah, who plays now for the Wimbledon. But putting them on the platform and allowing them to play or graduate, if that's the word, to their franchise teams. And that's correct. I think that's valid. In the Red Bull game, which is harder, goes over a longer period of time, as you say, the rules for CCC say that Cricket West Indies are allowed to put 4 senior guys on that team. I mean...
Is that cricket? And just with that, there is that. Whose fault is that then?
That's what I want. Good question.
Is that CCC selectors, or is that like did West Indies not put 4 names forward?
Do you know what? Like, I don't have the answer for you now, but after this show is done, I'm going to reach out to Miles Baskin and I'll tweet about it or something, and so watch out on our Twitter feed, or I'll put in the Discord whatever he says, because I just don't get why you wouldn't fill the 4 spots. Or fill the 4 spots. It doesn't mean they have to play. Some of those players will benefit from just a senior guy being there.
Absolutely. Like imagine if it was like Leon Johnson, doing like his grade 3. I don't know if he has any badges, but like if he had like doing his at the same time as doing one of his badges, just being in the squad, someone like that there. But So anyway, that was my CCC question, and then one final one. Now you ducked this question. I think you were sneaky about this, Mash, in the last caller about seals and about if you only have to pick 4 bowlers for a game.
Yeah.
Let's say it's a must-win game. All bowlers are fit and healthy, and let's say we'll do another little thing. Seals has destroyed the county championship. He has performed as well as he has done for like the rest of the rest of the championship. Who would you drop?
This is going to shock people. It's going to shock people. Alzarri Joseph's not a certain pick in my side anymore. He's not a certain pick in my side anymore. There is an argument to say. I haven't said it loudly yet on CCP. I'm holding my peace on it. But there's an argument to say that in red ball cricket, Alzari's not that much further on in his career than he should be. White ball cricket, no argument. I'm not arguing about white ball cricket. But in red ball cricket, at this stage of Alzari's career, how old is he now? 26, 27 maybe? Alzari's been playing since 2016. Well, yeah, it must be 27.
27.
Yeah, 27, yeah. 2016 World Cup. At this stage, after playing for the West Indies since 19 years old, he should be the pack leader. But we shouldn't even be talking about Kemar Roach, really and truly. Yeah. Alzari should have by now graduated to being the pack leader. He's not the pack leader yet. He's not the pack leader yet. So if I'm trying to win a match and Shamar Joseph is the Australia Shamar Joseph and Jaden Seals has destroyed the whole county championship, Alzarri Joseph might have to take a drop.
It's a wild. You know what? It's very good. It's like, when was the last time that we had that conundrum? Because at the end of the day, like, you know, I'm not saying, like, I agree with you, by the way, that I think I would drop Alzarri Joseph. Because I think whenever I think of the other bowlers, they all offer something unique in either bowling or just all-round stuff. And this is actually still me not saying that, you know, Alzarri Joseph is crap. No, or Alzarri Joseph is no good. No, like, it's a rare bit of actual depth and squad headache that Kohli will have to sort of figure it out. But it's, you know, you wouldn't think that the thought that we could be talking about Alzarri Joseph not being picked on merit of other bowlers being better than him potentially is an interesting.
Do you know what it is for me? Do you know what it is? What Roach, Shamar Joseph, and Jaden Seals, and I'm even throwing Jason Holder in there for all the critique that some people are going to give Jason. All of them offer control more than Alzarri does in red ball cricket. And in red ball cricket, I'm taking control before I take
the pace, I guess.
Sometimes Alzarri, it's pace for pace sake. And you're like, okay, you've bowled the same 6 balls and it's quick, but it's not forcing the batter to really do anything.
Yes, this is the thing with Alzarri. Have you been watching the IPL at all? Have you seen any of Alzarri bowling?
I saw him get dealt with, I think, in game 1. I don't know how he's gone since that game.
No, so I put in the Discord group, I think after that first game, I said he would be dropped by the 4th game, and he's been dropped. And Reece Topley's come in, and I don't know how he gets back in, to be honest with you, because Reece Topley's done well as well, which is worrying.
The worrying thing, though. Here's a worrying thing. Alzari's our go-to guy in the T20 World
Cup. People are like, you know what? It's so crazy. I like to think I'm like rationally minded when it comes to West Indies, and like, you know, I realize where we're at and stuff like that. There's just some dunce in me that, despite looking at all that there, and like this has infected all the other fans, is they think we can, like, we're like, okay, we'll at least get to the semi-finals. Whenever I look at the IPL and I look at our players there, I'm like, barely any are playing. And the ones that are playing are the likes of Narayan, who probably should be open. You might get Do you think we could? Do you think we could ask Narayan just to be our opening bat?
So do you know what? So in the press conference today, Darren Sammy was asked about Narayan, and what Sammy said about that was he said he had lengthy conversations with Sunil, and Sunil said that Sunil really thought about it, but reiterated that he's not coming out of retirement to play for West Indies.
No. But like,
so
it's not a good thing that is our thought. That
yeah.
Like Sunil Narayan is by far the best batter that the West Indies have in the IPL right now. But
yeah, it's
ultimately,
we just got to trust that Sammy can get the collective of that team. If there's one thing that Sammy has up his sleeve, and I genuinely believe this, is he is an excellent manager of people. And I think I can overlook individual ability with some of these players, knowing that Sammy may get them to buy into a bigger goal and a wider purpose. That said, I am not one of those people who thinks West Indies are getting to the semi-final of the World Cup. So I have no problem going on record as saying that I do not expect that. I'll be glad if we just get into the next stage after the group stage. Right? Anything after that is a bonus. I'm just looking for us to try and get out the group right about now. That's all I'm looking for.
If we can deal with Afghanistan,
listen.
New Zealand,
First
and
and foremost,
Afghanistan.
Listen, you're saying Afghanistan. I just need us to beat Uganda and Papua New Guinea first, and then we can start thinking about anything else.
Oh man, what we're saying, like a 5-match T20 series in Uganda. Yeah.
But anyways, listen, there's a couple more people left, so I'm gonna move on to them.
No worries.
Thank you for calling in, though.
See you.
Wicked. Take care. Right, we got Tom, Vanetta, and then it looks like Gio will end the show. Gio, you're not allowed to say the word garbage at any point in the call-in. Anyways, over to Tom. Yes, Tom, how you doing?
Hello, Mash, you all right?
I'm very good, thank you.
Huge fan of the podcast. I've got a couple points, really. My first point was, I believe that if Caribbean cricket went away from a nationalism kind of style of play, where you played nationalistic, your first class system, for example, and you moved it towards regions, it would be less complex about picking the squad, because like you said numerous times, it leans towards Barbados a lot, it leans towards Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago and these major countries a lot. Whereas if you moved it towards more of a regionalistic system, you wouldn't have them problems as much, because I believe that these people wouldn't have as much of a say in their say. You wouldn't have that nationalistic style mind, if you know what I mean.
How would it work regionally?
So, for example, I've looked this up. You could have 4 in Jamaica, 3 in Trinidad and Tobago. You could have a couple in Barbados, and you do it by population sizes. Much like Yorkshire have about 1 million people in their capacity, you can move it towards more of a population-based system where everybody's getting a bit of a go.
Let me just understand this. So, are you saying in terms of teams, or are you saying in terms of representation? In terms of teams.
So, for example, Trinidad and Tobago, you could have 1 in Tobago. You could have 3 more across the region there, especially in Trinidad. You could have 4 in Jamaica, especially. You could have maybe 2 or 3 in Barbados, based on how many players came out. And I believe under that system, they wouldn't be as bothered about where you've actually come from and representing that country, because they'd be more bothered about, I'm representing my region instead.
Right. So this is interesting, right? I can't remember when I first mooted this idea. I've sometimes wondered, I think maybe I was thinking about it in the T20 context, right? So instead of having Jamaica Talawas, for example, you have Kingston, whatever,
Yeah.
right? Now, and then so what you're saying, because Jamaica's the biggest nation in the region, you'd have a Kingston team. So let's just call them, for argument's sake, Kingston Knight Riders, and then you have Montego Bay Hustlers, right? Okay, cool.
You can compare it to England, really, where you have someone in the north, someone in the east,
Yeah,
someone in the
exactly.
south, someone in the west.
Right. So what you're
Just
saying is you replace
represent the
nations.
whole area.
You replace nations with clubs, and then you have players who are effectively picked up by clubs, and those clubs then go into the national, the wider West Indies team.
But the
It
thing
will
is,
never
I
happen.
feel like
I get where you're coming from.
I understand that, because I don't think there are enough funds going into West Indies cricket, first of all, to make that happen. And I'm not stupid, so I understand it would never happen. But what it would do massively, if there was a lot more funds put into it, is make players care more about their representing their clubs, like they do in county cricket, where they care about their counties, they care about representing their local area, and they stay with them, instead of just turning around and going, I need to get the best deal out there for me. I need to go out and get as much money as I can in the shortest space of time, instead of just going, do you know what I mean?
No. Do you know what? I do hear it, I do hear it.
It's local pride instead of just nationalistic pride.
I don't even know what I'm trying to say here, because I hear it. I definitely hear it. And it would be the biggest way to shake up cricket in the region, more so than anything else to do with pitches and this, that, and other. That would shake up the region completely, and it would take away insularity. Because
it would also make sure that all the players like Darren Bravo, who, for example, I don't think has been given a fair shake of things, they play. Everybody plays, because the younger players who are coming through, they all get a game. The older players who aren't playing enough, because there's only 6, 7, 8 teams in the country at the minute, in the region, they're not playing enough because they don't have a position in the 11. Younger players don't get a position in the 11. So at the minute, you're cutting off so much talent. When if you expanded things and put them more into the region, you bring in so much more talent and give them an opportunity to impress or express themselves.
Okay, I've got an idea of how this could work. The only way this works is, I'm going to speak to Kishore Shallow about this. The only way this would work is as follows. So you have your 3 teams in Jamaica, 2 teams in Barbados. No, sorry, 3 in Jamaica, 2 in Trinidad and Tobago, probably 2 in Barbados. You could have about 17 in Guyana, etc. Right? And then what you'd have to create to make this work is you would have to create a super league. That's the only way this works. So you'd have 10 to 12 super league teams across the region. Effectively, right? But the only way that works is if travel in the region was cheap. And because travel in the region isn't cheap, it could never work. But if we had a region where I could go from Jamaica to Trinidad and it only cost me the equivalent of £100, then it could work. However, Jamaica to Trinidad cost me £650. So it can't work. So a lot of it depends on the logistics and travel.
I've talked a lot to the ICC, though, who, when you can see what other people can see, how clearly the system can be sorted out, and then you talk to the ICC, and they're so hot and bothered about the T20 and just making money all the time. And you can see it's very clear to other people how this situation with Test cricket can be sorted out, how we can develop players. I find it bizarre that the ICC can't sit there and see how it can be sorted, because other people like me, you on YouTube, and other people who are low down in cricket can turn around and go, this is a system that could work, that could create players, that could produce players. And they don't seem willing or even able to put a system like that in place, given the amount of money coming out of cricket at the minute.
I hear that, but the answer to that question is that's because the higher heads, the people at the top, are making too much money for themselves. I always say follow the money. And where the money's at means why make changes for anybody down, same as government in any country? Why make changes for the people at the bottom when you can just keep the money for yourself?
Yeah, maybe that's because
I hear you know, it's a very, it's, do you know what, it's a very, do you know what you should do? I don't know if you're into writing, but I would write an article on that concept and watch how people would pick it up as nice. Whether to rubbish it,
I love it.
Whether to rubbish it or not, it's actually an interesting idea.
And I've got one more point to make, and this other people might not like this, right? Because obviously he took a lot of wickets in the Australian summer.
Yeah.
Right, and Holder. I looked him his name up. Yeah, Shamar Holder or whatever his name is. Right, he took a lot of wickets. I'll look his name. Shamar Joseph, that's it, not Holder. I'm thinking Shamar Holder for a second. Shamar Joseph.
Yeah.
But if you're heading to a British summer and you're heading into England in the summer, you want, right, it's very clear, there is an obvious way to victory. And I know that sounds mad, but you need two opening bowlers who know how to bowl in England. You've got that right now with Kamar Roach, who's born at Surrey very well, and you've got that with Jaden Seals, who's born very well at Sussex. He's just taken 5 or 6 for on his debut.
Yeah.
So you've got two bowlers there. You want a spinner who knows how to spin. Gudakesh Moti. Straight away, he's the man going there, right? That's your 9, 10, 11. That's sorted.
Yep.
Done. Right. You want someone who's got a bit of extra pace, who can bowl a bit of extra pace. Now, you can go with Shamar Joseph, or you can go with Alzari Joseph, and I think it's hard on that, but I think Alzari Joseph offers a little bit more with the bat, and I think that's why he goes at number 8.
So wait. Are you telling me drop Shamar Joseph already?
I'm not saying drop him.
I might have the show, you know.
No, because I think within the I'm guessing it is 3 tests, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing within them 3 tests, you could bring, say, for example, Jaden Seals or Kemar Roach have a nightmare in that first test. You can bring Shamar Joseph in, but I don't think he's got the pace to trouble people in England because it's much slower pitches. It's not going to bounce.
I hear that argument. I do hear that argument, but isn't express pace with control an X factor skill? So like Mark Wood, right?
Mark Wood hasn't been really effective in England. That's why we only play him abroad. Really, Mark Wood. You look at James Anderson and Stuart Broad taking 1,000 wickets between them, but neither of them have real pace. It's the same with you look at Joffa Archer and Mark Wood. I'd love them both to be fit for the Ashes next summer, like the Ashes down under next summer.
Right? Yeah.
But it's unlikely to happen, but hopefully it does. But at the same time, we don't need Joffa Archer's already been told he doesn't need to be needed for the test this summer. He's already been told you're there for the T20s. We don't need you. Because we know that with James Anderson, who's still fit, we've got Matthew Potts, who's probably going to play at the same time. We've got Mark Wood, who can fill in, maybe Bryden Cast at the same time. We've got Jack Leach, who's going to be the spinner. We've got a 4-man pace attack there, and we believe they'll be good enough. Because in England, ultimately, you need that extra bit of pace every now and then. You do, but at the same time, I think the batting depth is more potent. I think having a number 8 who can actually swing the bat and score 50 is more important than somebody who can just run in and take 4 or 5.
Yeah, I agree with that point. And I think ultimately the reality of the situation is that depending on what kind of pitches are produced in England, but the reality is West Indies are going to come with I don't know who will bat at 6 yet, but certainly 3, 4, and 5 will be McKenzie, Athanase, and Hodge, right? Yeah. None of them have played in England before.
That's another problem, man. That was it. I cannot believe, from this side of the pond, I just cannot believe that Shy Hope as just giving up his career like that. It does feel Shy Hope should be your Baba Azam. He should be your Virat Kohli, your Joe Root, your number 4, you're the man, if you know what I mean. He is the man. He is the man who can score the runs. Shy Hope is the number 4. And it's obvious. It's hard
okay. One second. He's currently playing the IPL. Before we go to England, he will have played no red ball cricket. You'd still take him. Still take him.
I don't know. I think growing up over the past few years, Shy Hope he's been that emerald. Do you know that diamond within the dirt? Shy Hope is the man. It's literally in his name, isn't it? Hope. He's the man who I don't know. I've always compared him with Babar Azam, Virat Kohli, Root, and he's always been West Indies for me. He's been the man. Number 4, Shy Hope. Put Shy Hope number 4.
Let me tell you something though. When we went to Australia, he got, as I understand it, he was one of the options to go to Australia, and he decided to go play. Where was he? Bangladesh. I think he went to play the Bangladesh Premier League. Jason Holder decided not to go to Australia to go and play. I can't even remember where he was. Right. Brandon King decided not to go play Bangladesh Premier League. So I hear you. But Holder and King are now playing in the West Indies Championship ahead of going to England. Well, sorry, no, Holder's now in England. Sorry, playing for Worcestershire. King's captain in Jamaica. Shay Hope is in
Holder
IPL.
Will be brilliant at number 7.
Yeah, Holder's locked. But I hear your point about Hope. But I guess the point I'm making is no special treatment for him. No special treatment. Like, no. For him to now get his chance. For him to get his chance, he has to wait for McKenzie or Athanase or Hodge to inevitably fail. For him to get yet another chance. Really and truly, if you really want me to tell you where Hope gets into the West Indies team, is for him to actually get back in, he has to become wicketkeeper. If he genuinely wants to get back in the team, he has to become wicketkeeper. That doesn't mean Josh gets dropped. Josh could go and be a batter for all I care. But if Hope wants to get back in quicker, he has to say to Desmond Haynes, I want to be wicketkeeper, and then they would move Josh up the order and tell Josh to go bat at number 3, 4, or 5, where he should probably be batting anyway.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that.
There you go. No?
Another fact as well, I think a lot of people question the opening partnership with Craig Brathwaite and Tej Nandapal. And coming to England, their style of play, if you're going to create an English opener, they're pretty much on the money. They see out the early balls, they see off the new ball, they see off the swing early on, and they come into their own later on in the innings. If you were going to create openers for England, they'd be right on the money. They're perfect.
Listen, both of them are playing in England. Both of them are playing. The only way, whether West Indian fans like it or not, the only way still that West Indies put any substantial total on the board anywhere in the world literally boils down to one of Craig or Tej has to bat long, has to bat deep, and they'll do it very slowly. That's the only way we put up any kind of total anywhere. So I don't expect I expect Tej to be going. And obviously Craig will go. Listen, Tom, I know there's more to go, but I'm mindful of the time and the fact we got 2 more people left.
I appreciate the effort. Thank you, Mach. I'm a big fan. Thank you very much.
No worries, man. Thank you for calling in.
Cheers. Bye.
Much appreciated. Bye. Cheers. Right, Vanetta, you've been waiting long, but we've got to you. Gio, you're still there, Gio. Gio's ready to say garbage, you know. Anyways, Vanetta, in you go. Yes, Vanetta, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I'm gonna try to be brief.
Well, first and foremost, where you ringing from?
Maryland.
Oh, so you're in the US? Do you know what? I thought you were in the Caribbean.
No, from the Caribbean, but not in the Caribbean.
Okay, all good, all good.
So I'm going to start off with some caveats before I get my head bitten off. I'm not saying that we're giving up on the current players, but we've got to be realistic with what we have right now is not world beaters compared to the other teams.
Mm-hmm.
And we look at, even if you do IPL or most countries list A teams, can in the very least give the West Indies team a run for their money.
I agree.
So my take is we say, okay, this is what we have. We can't do much with this. Can we start focusing on the ones who are 15, 14, 13 and build them up and make them to the team that I grew up looking at? Where you turn on the TV and you're like, okay, who are we beating today? Not can we beat Uganda?
So what are you saying? We're writing off this whole generation and going to the next one.
We're not writing them off.
Yeah.
We're accepting them as they are.
Yeah.
And not expecting them to be the team of the 80s.
Yeah.
Because I think that is the biggest. I mean, I grew up waking up at like 3 a.m, whatever it is, to see West Indies play Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were going to beat them. And that was good.
I hear you.
And then, then I came up here and it was like, well, I'd actually have to pay for a subscription to see West Indies play. And they're probably going to lose anyway. So why? So I will admit I strayed from cricket for about a decade or so.
You're not the only one.
But I'm thinking we've also got to be realistic about the fact that Cricket West Indies just does not have a crap load of money. We can't invest the way that India does. But we've got a fair amount of people in the diaspora who are doing decently well. And we keep complaining about where cricket in the Caribbean is, and it needs to get better. We need to do more. Well, I can't go home every time West Indies are playing whenever they happen to play in Guyana and buy a ticket to the game. But if we can start something where there's some sort of fun, you put money towards it. And we have like little clinics. So speaking about Shamar Joseph, he went to a clinic in Berbice, funded by at least 1 or 2 individuals, not even a business. And that I'm not saying that was the only thing that made him get into cricket, but it was foot in the door starting point. And we just literally got to start putting our money where our mouths are. We can't keep complaining that West Indies are not doing well. Yes, they're not. People are not going to the games. Well, it's a mix between we're not going well, so people aren't encouraged to go to the games. And some of those ticket prices are not inexpensive. You've got to balance how much people in the West Indies make versus how much cricket tickets are. And if we really want to get back to where the majority of us grew up with West Indies, we've got to put some money into it. Now, I don't know exactly how we do that, but I think it is something that we need to think about, to figure out. I mean, I'm not saying throw $10,000. I don't have $10,000 to throw. But every so often, you can spare $100, £100, something. And you build it up, and you have these little clinics in the different islands. And Guyana, before somebody bites my head off and says Guyana is not an island. I'm aware of that. And, you have these little clinics where the youngers, these 13, 14, 15-year-olds, are exposed to actual international cricketers. I mean, they're still there, they're still around, and I'd like to assume that they also want West Indies to go back to where they were, so they're not going to try to charge $10,000 to do a 2-day clinic.
So I want to jump in here because I actually think the point you're making is excellent, right? There is an event that is going. I haven't said too much about it. Well, I've said nothing about it yet because it's still in the planning stage. There's an event, for example, I'm just using this as an example, that's going to be held in London in November, which is about, like, they've asked me to get involved with it because one of the aspects of the event that they want to look at is how can the diaspora play a more significant role in the development of cricket back home. So this event is primarily aimed at, I think, Guyanese, Jamaicans, St. Lucians, just for whatever reason. The people who got in touch with me, that's just what it is so far, right? And one of the things I said to them is, I said the diaspora would readily, some of us, contribute to cricket development back home. But the reason we don't is because we don't know who's doing what. Where there is no pipeline, there is no connection, there isn't enough forward-thinking people, in my mind, who are saying, right, how do we engage with I actually think, believe it or not, I've said this to some of the stakeholders in West Indies cricket before, I actually think that the West Indies cricket team and the West Indies setup cricket West Indies are fortunate and yet haven't taken advantage of the fact that they have a huge diaspora in the United States, in Canada, and primarily the USA, Canada, and United Kingdom, primarily, who feel an integral connection to their home nation, whichever one that may be, in the region as a whole, right? It's why you hear figures such as, I think Guyana and Jamaica are the two nations in the Caribbean that have the biggest emigration figures out to other countries elsewhere, right? They're also the two nations, if I'm correct, that have the most remittance that comes back to those nations in terms of for family and for this and for that. I have always wondered how cricket stakeholders have not tapped into that. We're just out here supporting and starving for success, willing to support, and no one's looking at connecting the dots and saying, how do we bring them in? How do we bring the diaspora to the
table?
How do we make them closer to the region, right? I went to 2 years ago in the summer, so a year and a half ago, I went to the Netherlands. West Indies were playing the Netherlands. And what surprised me, but then when I look back on it, didn't surprise me, there were people at that game who had come from all over Europe to watch. I'd come from the UK, some people had come from Germany, some had come from Belgium, some had come from here, and everyone had congregated from wherever they were in Europe to say, yeah, come, let's watch the West Indies. And I said to people who were there, why haven't the West Indies and Cricket West Indies tapped into the fact that the diaspora is willing to support? Probably in more ways than they realize. But I actually think your point is super valid, but I don't know if anyone's got the foresight to work on it.
To make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, then you've got, talking about the Guyana Cricket Board and their 900 issues, you can't really work through them. So it's going to have to be something, I think, more overarching than the individual country cricket boards. And it's probably going to have to be a Cricket West Indies sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where the money goes to them and they're like, okay, so this month we've got a batting clinic in Trinidad with Brian Lara.
Yeah.
We've got a bowling one in Jamaica somewhere. And they will have, because I'll be honest, I'm not sure I'll be willing to constantly be pushing money into Guyana Cricket Board.
No way. No
clue.
If Jamaica Cricket Board came to me and said, give me some money, I said, no.
So it has to be a Cricket West Indies thing. And as you said, so the first time they played international cricket in Florida. And I'm like, I knew we were going to lose to India. But that's okay. I took my flight down. I paid my ticket. I'm like, well, we didn't lose too badly the second game. But you're going to go anyway. And I think that the love is there and we want us to get better. And we're realistic about the fact we don't have India development money, Australia development money. Like Cricket West Indies does not have that. And so it's got to, maybe if it starts from us, then some of the businesses who make millions upon millions will put some money in too.
So I think the answer is private sector. It doesn't sit well with me that I'm saying that, but I think it's private sector, similar to, like I say, similar. So like, obviously there's a lot of money awash in Berbice at the moment, right? So that, I think Curtly Ambrose is in Berbice at the moment again, doing another.
I think he just left.
Yeah, he might have just left. So he was doing another 3-day clinic in Berbice, but that's down to Guyanese individuals, I don't know if they're abroad or at home in Guyana, funding the clinic as Berbetians who are funding that clinic for the benefit of young players who otherwise may not be noticed, because the other thing we haven't spoken about is the politics in the region. So the politics is a big blocker as well. So the reason why I'm saying it has to be private is because that bypasses the political maneuvers. Listen, Shamar Joseph should have been noticed a long time ago. What no one's willing to say is I bet there was a bit of politics at that as well, though. So
it's Guyana too, yes.
Man lived back of bush. No one's going out back of bush to look for him. So you know there's some political nonsense around all of that as well. So I think, like I say, you and I need to have further discussions on that, because this is something that needs to be developed wider, because I reckon there's more people like you, more people like me, possibly listening right now thinking I'd gladly contribute, but who and what am I contributing to?
Exactly.
So yeah. Exactly.
But you've got one more person left, so let me give them a chance.
Thank you anyways. Listen, don't be a stranger. Next, whenever there's some more, call in, and let's talk some more.
I will. Take care.
No problem. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Last person, Gio. I know Gio's been waiting, you know. Gio, how many garbages you got for me before I get to go to my bed? Let me bring Gio on. Last caller, people, and then look at the time. Oh my God, 1 hour and 46 minutes. I hope you lot have been pressing like, you know. Like, subscribe. I hadn't even said that. First time I said that in the whole show. Like, subscribe, click notifications, all of that. It's 20 past midnight in the UK. But do you know I've not been tired in this one? You lot have kept me up. This has been a good show, to be fair. So 1 hour and 46 minutes. Gio, no matter what happens, when that timer says 2 hours, the show is over. You lot got me out here running a radio show, no sponsorship, just talking, and people don't want to press like. Anyways, anyone who's listening to this who's like a radio person, bring me in it. Listen, I can run a radio show for you. I can do this. It doesn't have to be on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Anyways, Gio, come on, let's end this. Gio, how you doing?
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. What time is it where you are?
Oh, just 8:20 in the morning.
Oh, you're fresh.
Yeah. I've been trying to get on your program, but the thing about it is every time you do the program. Oh, sorry about it. Oh my God. Hold on. Yeah, hold on. Sorry about that. So I've been trying to get on your program, but the only reason why I haven't got on your program was because every time you do it, it'd be work for me. Because right now it's Tuesday morning. Because I'm all the way in Japan right now.
Yeah, of course. The thing is, Gio, what I try to do, the sweet spot, to be able to, I try to get a sweet spot which caters for the US and the Caribbean. So really and truly, for the people in the US and the Caribbean, they probably really want the show starting now, because now it would be like 7 o'clock in certain parts of Eastern Caribbean in the US, and 6 o'clock in Jamaica. So, but the problem is, Gio, I can't stay awake to start a show at midnight. It's the rough with the smooth, you know. But anyways, Gio, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, what I want to talk about. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. You're a bit.
Yeah, what I really want to talk about is well, I was gonna say that G word, but I'm not gonna say that. I was gonna say that word, but the thing about it is, I feel like I like the improvements that we're going on right now, but I really think that a lot of people might disagree, but I don't think that the format for 4-day cricket and 7 rounds, I don't think that's enough. I think they need to increase it to at least, say, for example, 10 rounds. Because what would I say? What they would do is everybody play each other one time. That would make 7 rounds. Then the top 4, they play each other 3 more times, and then that's how we determine a champion. Because like all these 7 rounds, I think is either too much breaks or players getting dropped left, right, and center. So there's like no consistency. And I think because really and truly, right, these cricketers are getting paid X amount of money, right? What are they going to be doing because they only play regional cricket from when? They play Super 15 October, November.
Yeah.
And then they don't really play no cricket in January. So they play in February, March, April, right?
And then the season.
They're getting paid like, yeah, the season done. What are they doing in terms of like playing for the region for the rest of the next 7 months in the year? What are they doing? Because most of the time they come back unfit.
So do you know what, Gio? I agree with you. I actually agree with you on this point. Now, what the players, if you've got a domestic contract for your nation, you are being paid all year round as a professional, which is why I've been critical of some of the domestic cricket boards who don't organize tours to other places, because you've got centrally contracted players to your regional board, and after the regional championship is done, then what? So we're saying, bear in mind that IPL is not going to finish until what, middle of May, something like that, right? So the last round of the regional championship ends on April the 20th. I reckon that is another month of cricket that you could fit in before you could argue, but there's international cricket coming up and CPL and I think we should be playing domestic cricket all the while the IPL is going on. We should be playing domestic cricket. Now, what Cricket West Indies will say is that to organize domestic tournaments, it's a money loser for a start because there's no sponsorship. I think Super 50 is sponsored by CG United. I don't know if our Red Bull Championship is sponsored by anyone. So there's no sponsorship. There's no TV coverage because Cricket West Indies do it through YouTube. So they are doing this at a massive loss, right? It's not like it's the Shell Shield or Red Stripe Cup or that with no sponsorship, right? You're paying for players to fly everywhere. You're paying for them to stay in hotels. So the reason I want to make that point is we have to be realistic and say there is a serious expense involved in all of this. Chartering a plane for X amount of man to fly. So round 6, let me give an example, right? CCC, no, hold on. Let me give you an example, which Windward Islands. So Windward Islands, no. Actually, this round is probably makes the most. Here we go. Perfect example. On Wednesday this week, Guyana travelled to Jamaica to play the Scorpions at Sabina Park. After that round will finish on Saturday, the 13th of April. They then need to be in Trinidad after that to start their next game against CCC by the 17th. A flight from Jamaica to from Kingston to Port of Spain, and even if you're chartering the plane for 15, 16, 17 Guyanese people, whatever players, sorry, to get to Port of Spain, that's tons of money, and that's just one team. That's just one team. So I'm not defending Cricket West Indies, but the expense involved means to do what you want, which I agree with on principle, which is effectively have about 14 games, or at least maybe another 3. Boy, I don't know the expense involved in that. I don't know how we get around it, I guess is what I'm saying, Joe. So I guess my question to you is, how do we get around that?
Yes, my thing is right. Because my thing is right. Say, for example, right? Say in Trinidad, we got like 3 grounds that we can use. Or say Antigua, right? I know we got 2 standard grounds. Maybe they could have 2 more grounds. That my thing is why West Indies like don't invest in stuff like maybe you can't really put cricketers and something like this, but like say for example like a boarding facility in say Antigua or Trinidad, and they could just be placed there for like a month, and they would just play cricket right there because they got enough grounds, or expand or partner with like a company that builds some type of houses or builds an apartment complex for West Indies to play during to be staged during that time, instead of trying to get hotels and stuff like that for the players. I don't know if they stay in hotels, but I'm just saying something like that, because I know that's what like minor league baseball team does. That's what like other sports they do. That's not like top sports. They stay in like apartment complexes for that period of time there in that city on that era. Why can't we do that? That's just my thing. And we
So
could
I
hold it
agree.
in Trinidad.
I agree, but then here's the problem with. I agree actually, and I think you're right. But here's the problem with that argument. It would mean that basically every domestic tournament would effectively have to be held between Antigua and Trinidad, because Trinidad and Antigua are the only places that have enough grounds to realistically do that, if you see what I mean. So Trinidad's got Brian Lara Academy, obviously Queen's Park,
Diego Martin,
UE Spec, and then Antigua's obviously got Sir Viv and CCG, etc. So the question we have to ask ourselves, like, it's, to be honest, it's been really good to see some domestic cricket back at Sabina Park. But the reality is, if you're going to have cricket games at Sabina Park, as should be the case, Sabina Park in Jamaica's nowhere near the rest of the Caribbean. So are we saying that in order to make it cost effective, we essentially say to Jamaica, we can't run any cricket in Jamaica because it hinders travel costs and it's not, do you see what I mean? So someone's going to have to be at a disadvantage, and the team that would be at the biggest disadvantage is Jamaica, because Jamaica's far away.
Yeah, but the irony part about it is, like, my thing is, the irony part about it is why, I know this is probably mostly a Jamaican thing, right? But really and truly, like, they were playing games there. They were playing at Shredden Park, they're playing at Kingston Cricket Club, and they're playing at Sabina Park. And they could play, if the Trelawney Stadium was actually fixed up properly, they could play at the Trelawney Multipurpose Stadium, because remember, there was 3 games going on at the same time in Jamaica.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's like facilities there. Like, we don't gotta like if you look at some of the grounds that they be playing, like domestic cricket in say, for example, like maybe like New Zealand or sometimes in England, like, these are not like international cricket grounds. These are even England too, like some of the smaller counties. These are just like grounds just with adequate facilities, right? So we could just stage them right there.
Yeah, but even in those grounds, though, at least the grass is cut.
Oh yeah, that is true. Oh.
So at least it's looked after properly. But do you know what? I think your argument has makes sense if you look at it this way. You start your first round in Jamaica, so you use those 3 grounds that you mentioned. You could argue that maybe they could even use Florida, etc. And then you move to Trinidad. 6 teams play in Trinidad. 1 team goes to Antigua. Then the next 2 teams, go to Antigua. Then those teams go to Antigua. 2 teams go to St. Lucia. Do you see what I mean? So there's a way to make it happen whereby you're only ever playing in 2 countries at any one time, if that makes sense. But I'm sure, or I'd like to believe, Cricket West Indies are looking at it. But do you know what? The final thing I will say is this, Gio. Let's not forget that before the pandemic, we used to have 10 rounds, and people used to play home and away against each other. So I refuse to believe this isn't something that can't happen again. So whatever decisions are being made now is surely is surely done on some kind of like cost analysis, cost benefit analysis, and they've decided that this makes no sense to go back to the old ways, which maybe they're right to say that. I don't know.
Yes. And then the one thing I would say, thank you for having me. And the one thing I would say is, like, say for example, right, the U23 tournament that's coming up, like, if they ever did decide to do it, maybe they should like, eventually when that happens, no country should argue about getting games, because that's just for a development standpoint. Like, they could play all the games in 2 countries for all of our concern.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
That's just a development standpoint.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Yeah. Right. Gio, you stopped 40 seconds before the 2-hour mark. You've done it perfectly. Thank you so much for coming on, Gio. Catch me next time, next Monday.
Okay, thank you for having me. Well, right now I'll be free because I just had a newborn, so I won't go back to work until like April. Like April, like May 1st. So
Okay,
I
so
have plenty of time.
you're outside. You're outside.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah, I'm outside.
Catch you soon, Gio.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No problem. Just before I go, Anish, thank you so much for the super chat. How our pitch is going to be in the T20 World Cup. So, Anish, so the ICC were recently in the Caribbean doing workshops around pitch curation and stuff like that. I know that a couple of months ago they've relayed the pitches at Arna's Vale in St. Vincent. My understanding from speaking to people at Cricket West Indies is that every single World Cup venue is, if they're not having the pitches relayed, they're certainly doing some serious look at the quality and nature of those pitches, and where they aren't fit for purpose, there is a significant overhaul going on for those particular grounds. So somewhere like Kensington Oval will probably be fine because they tend to have proper cricket pitches, right? But where there are World Cup venues where they're concerned about the quality of the pitches, they will be relaying and sorting them out, because this is an ICC event. So the ICC obviously has a significant oversight over making sure that West Indies don't serve up a dead World Cup with dead pitches. So thank you for the question, Anish, much appreciated, and thank you for the super chat. Panda Steph says, read the curry question from earlier on. Curry chicken tastes better than chicken curry. Yeah, it probably does, to be fair. But I don't know. I'll leave you lot to argue that one out. Listen, people, thank you so much. Next Monday, I'm back at school again. Go back to work. So as much as I'm saying this is an every Monday thing, and it will be, I'll still run next Monday's one. I don't know if it'll be a 2-hour show. You lot have caught me on a day where I can afford to let a show run to midnight and say that life is good. But thank you so much to everybody who contributed. If you're watching this on the replay, thank you for watching it on the replay. We covered a lot today, to be fair. Just to give you lots some notes, some dates for the diary, West Indies cricket-wise. So Wednesday the 10th is the start of the next round, the 6th round of the West Indies Championship. Jamaica Scorpions play Guyana Harper Eagles at Sabina Park. Leeward Islands Hurricanes play Barbados Pride at Sir Viv. CCC play Trinidad and Tobago Red Force at UE Spec. And West Indies Academy will be playing the Windward Island Volcanoes at CCG. So those games are going on. Then next week, we have the last round starting on Wednesday the 17th. And then we have the start of the women's ODI series against Pakistan, which begins on Thursday the 18th. And then announced today, for those of you who haven't heard yet, starting on Saturday the 27th of April, West Indies A, but basically the best of the rest who aren't in the IPL, will be playing a 5-match T20 series in Nepal. Against Nepal. So that starts on Saturday, the 27th of April. And as announced today by Darren Sammy, they come back from Nepal on May the 4th. And then Sammy says that the World Cup team will go into a camp from the 10th of May in preparation for the World Cup. Obviously, South Africa will be coming here for 3 T20s before the start of the World Cup. And those T20s, South Africa versus West Indies, will be played at Sabina Park, which is what Miles Baskin revealed today. So, and the reason why, somebody asked me this earlier on, the reason why the South Africa T20s are at Sabina Park is because there's nowhere else to play them, because most of the other countries are World Cup venues. So Jamaica is free, and they don't want to play any of the warm-up games on the pitches yet. So warm-up games. They don't want to play the South Africa series on any of the pitches for the World Cup yet, because obviously they're still getting ready for the World Cup. So it makes sense to have the games at Sabina, because we're not hosting, and by we I mean Jamaica, we're not hosting any games in the World Cup. So put the series at Sabina Park. So any Jamaicans, you've got some cricket to watch ahead of the World Cup. and that will be sometime in May. We'll tweet about it once the dates come out, and so on and so forth. And sorry, lastly, nearly forgot, West Indies Academy will be in Ireland in May, which there's so much cricket coming up. So the West Indies Academy will be touring Ireland in May. I'm waiting for the final confirmation of those dates because I want to get across to Ireland for that series to play the emerging Ireland team as well. So lots and lots of cricket ahead, people. Listen, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in for today's live show. Be Machel St. Patrick here at one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcasts. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.